So before in previous lessons, we've talked about the Cisco One Enterprise Cloud Suite. This particular platform, as we mentioned, is a combination of a number of different products. So in this particular lesson, we're going to talk about the Intercloud Fabric portion of it. So that's the one that you're seeing there on the right. That allows you to be able to address that whole hybrid cloud scenario. So why is hybrid an important concept? Why do we need this type of capability within our environments? Ultimately, it comes down to a question of where you want to provide your workloads, or how do you want to, pay for the services that you're offering for the business. So in the case of a provider cloud, or leveraging a public cloud, there's a lot of economies that you can get associated with it. In some cases, you can also get better speed, and the scaling capabilities of a provider's cloud can be significantly bigger than what you have within your own environment. The challenge you've got, though, whenever you go towards a public cloud environment is there's also a lot of things you have to give up. When you're using a provider's cloud, you don't control how they operate their network. You don't control how the hardware is configured. Any of these things are really out of your purview. You get a service level agreement, and that's pretty much it. Now, when we think about what we need from a security perspective, a lot of organizations are looking for ways to better be able to control how their data is used and where it's flowing through the network. So if you've got sensitive information, security is a very big concern that you may have by putting data into the public cloud. You also have issues with data sovereignty, and this gets into country regulations and rules, different laws that you have in certain countries that really require that you have your data in that particular environment. So being able to ensure that the data that I have here in the U.S. is not stored in a in a data center that's in another country outside, or maybe in Europe. At the end of the day, I want to be able to have control over where my data is, and it gets down to being able to ensure that the data that I'm going to put into the public cloud is as secure as it is within my private cloud, and that's a big challenge. That's why hybrid is so important. What hybrid does is it really kind of strikes a balance between how we can operate a private cloud as well as how we can leverage the benefit and the utility of a public cloud. It's designed to be able to address everything from fixed workloads to elastic workloads, where I've got the need to be able to spin up and spin down based on capacity. The capability of really giving your business the choice of being able to determine, am I going to build it or am I going to rent it? And the other aspect of it, and why hybrid is so important, is it provides a lot of flexibility. You don't get locked into a particular type of or a particular provider. So it gives you the capability of being able to shop around. And if you can get a better deal with another provider, you can just take your workload and move it into that provider. That's why hybrid is so important. So let's talk a little bit about how it works. So the Intercloud Fabric it operates very much like a switch. So here you've got an example of a modular switch there on the left. So your network administrator would typically go in and configure that switch. This is how everybody's done it for the last 30 plus years. You basically connect up to the supervisor and you configure the line cards. Very straightforward. Now in the case of Intercloud Fabric, we move those capabilities into the Intercloud environment. That means those supervisors are going to be sitting there in the actual data center, and the control functions are going to be sitting within my premises. But the capabilities that I'm going to have is I'm going to extend those line cards into the fabric itself. So those line cards are going to be sitting on my provider's environment. Now, granted, they're virtualized. We're not talking physical hardware here. What we're saying is that control functionality and the ability to be able to administer the switch is going to look just like it is within my own data center. And that's the beauty of what we provide with Intercloud, is that capability of giving you that same level of control and functionality across any provider you choose. So as your data moves between provider and provider, you have the ability to be able to ensure the integrity of it and the security of that data. So here's a little bit more detail about how it operates. So here you've got an application on the left that wants to communicate out to the application on the right, which sits in a provider's environment. So the application sends a piece of data. That data goes into the enterprise virtual switch. This is just a switch in your data center. From there, it goes to the Intercloud extender. The Intercloud extender is a component that sits in your environment that creates a layer 2 tunnel into the provider's cloud. That means you've got a secure, cryptographically cryptographically secured tunnel that is connecting your data center into that public cloud environment. So that's why you're seeing here, once that data gets sent, it gets encapsulated by the Intercloud extender, and then it gets forwarded onto the provider's environment. Now, that provider's network switch, you do not control. You don't have any ability to be able to manage it. That's generally not what a provider is going to let you do. But what we do within the Intercloud and how we're able to address that and still provide that same level of security is we don't just dump that data straight off into that network switch. No, what we do is we have an encrypted connection that goes between the Intercloud switch, which is a virtual machine that you load in your provider's environment. That's what's making that connection back to your data center. We have an encrypted connection that goes to the virtual machine through a driver that gets loaded in the VM. So that's how you actually get that connection together. So from the perspective of the virtual machine, it looks like it's on a switch that's sitting in your data center. All the data that is passed back and forth between these applications is all cryptographically secured. So that means you've got a bubble, basically, that you've created, or a shell that you've created within the provider's environment. So as that data moves on, it then gets securely passed back and forth to that VM. So that data now can be decompressed in that virtual machine and can be executed on. Again, that data in motion is fully secured. So this offering, ultimately, it solves a lot of different problems. It helps to address the security and compliance requirements where maybe particular lines of business in your customer, or, in your organization are really not, following a lot of the IT guidelines. Maybe they're just going out directly to a cloud provider and just leveraging that. So that's called shadow IT. In some cases, you may never have, you may not have a problem, but it's kind of one of those things where unless you've got the ability to be able to, protect that data and you can follow certain guidelines, you're not going to be in a situation where you can prove that you did your due diligence. That's why it's so important to make sure that the policy that you have within your data center that you're securing your data with is the same one regardless of where it is, if it's in your data center, if it's in a provider. And that's what Intercloud provides for us. That's what it does. Again, it provides a layer 2 secured connection. We're leveraging the ability to be able to take advantage of the public cloud's utility and the economy associated with it while still maintaining control. It's all about securing that data. The last thing your company wants is for your CEO to get on CNN tomorrow and have some big explanation or try to figure out why you lost your customers' data. That's why it's so important to have a solution set like this.